What are your thoughts on Fullerton roads?
Awful. They're too rough, and they're potholes.
Parts of West Fullerton, the roads are just completely demolished.
I've seen them slowly deteriorate in a lot of the lower income areas.
They used to be better, and right now it needs a lot of work, and there's some areas where really bad, so I think it can be better.
It's when you start going down Harbor and you get closer to Anaheim, maybe they could be the worst roads in Orange County, but I didn't know.
I haven't run into too many speedy cracks or bumps or anything that I'm aware of. I also walk a lot for work, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask about this.
They could definitely be improved, and it always astonishes me that areas of improvement are usually around those neighborhoods that are wealthy and influential in organizations and institutions.
Third world country. I don't like them at all. They're very bad condition.
Very, very bad condition. It's pretty bad when you go on our travel trips and our bus driver gets off the freeway, turns into Fullerton, and he goes, "Yep, we're in Fullerton." You can tell by the roads.
California, the Golden State. Home to Hollywood and the fifth largest economy, not just in the United States, but the entire world. But something else lives in California, and that is its crumbling roads. As governors and mayors with hands tied behind their backs, forced by public pressure to lower the taxes that support road repairs, the problem has spiraled out of control and now requires a more in-depth look. TRIP, a private non-profit organization that researches, evaluates, and distributes economic and technical data on surface transportation issues, pointed out that the crumbling roads cost California motorists a total of $61 billion annually due to the operating costs and numerous crashes. The gravity of the situation shows, as the organization reports, that in California, more than 2/3 of major roads are in poor or mediocre conditions. But this isn't to say every road in California is awful. With the assistance from California's gas tax SB1 and Orange County's half-cent tax Measure M, along with other funding, the city of Irvine has been able to reach a pavement condition index ranking of 86, which is 20 points higher than the entire state average.
Yeah, pavement condition index, it's a rating from 0 to 100, typical standard. 0 means you basically have dirt, 100 you just paved it that minute. So we hire a consultant to every 2 years to review all our arterial roads, and then within every 6 years all our other roads. And they're looking at environmental concerns, basically the condition of the road. Is it environmental? Is it vehicle weight and volumes that's making it break up? So we look at all of that information, and then we come up with a score to tell us, what's the condition of the road. Is it very poor, fair, good, or very good? And we have that plotted on our GIS. And what we do is, obviously we come up with an average score. We get compared against all the other cities in the county. We need to make sure that we're spending X amount of dollars a year to maintain our funding from OCTA to help offset some of our maintenance costs, or actually not offset. They provide additional money to help us. But really, it's just a bigger picture to see where we need to do work, where things are, poor, where things are good, how we want to program our work now and in the future.
Orange County, the second most populous county in all of California, which surpasses the population of 18 states, lies a city adjacent to the happiest place on earth and the birthplace of a former president. Welcome to Fullerton. Founded in 1887, it stands as one of the oldest cities in all of Orange County. But Fullerton finds itself at a unique intersection. Between respected schools and the gleam of nearby attractions lies a pressing concern that cannot be ignored: the condition of the roads.
I live in district, now 4, but this is all around our city. It's not just, district 5, 4, because I've been around different, schools. I'm very involved in our schools, and I see the need all over our city. And I think that is something that we all agree in Fullerton. We all have different opinions and different, points of view. I think the thing that we all agreed in Fullerton is that we need help for our roads.
As cars traverse these worn and weathered streets, the sign of neglect become apparent. Cracked and uneven surfaces present a constant obstacle course, testing the patience and agility of those who navigate them daily. The deteriorating condition of Fullerton's Road not only affects the comfort and safety of its citizens, but also possesses a significant challenge to the city's infrastructure as a whole.
When I use a walker crossing the street, it's a challenge. I feel like I'm in a junior Olympics. I have to jump over them and make left and right hand turns. I think it's disgusting.
The Orange County Transit Authority, in a comprehensive report for Measure M, evaluated the region's transportation infrastructure and highlighted Fullerton's roads as a pressing issue demanding attention. As the lifeblood of a city, well-maintained roads are crucial for the smooth functioning of businesses, the safety of commuters, and the overall vitality of a community. But as you guessed, it wasn't always like this. You see, the first roads in Fullerton were simple dirt paths, often following the natural contours of the land. They served as vital arteries connecting the agricultural industry to the outside world. Imagine the sight of horse-drawn carriages traversing these early roads, carrying produce, supplies, and passengers. It was a time of simplicity and hard work, where travel was slow but essential. As the automobile gained popularity, the demand for better roads surged. Fullerton witnessed a significant transition from the primitive dirt roads to paved surfaces, marking a new era of faster travel and enhanced connectivity. The addition of paved roads revolutionized transportation, bringing about unprecedented levels of accessibility and linking communities like never before. With this transformation, Fullerton experienced a profound shift in its dynamics, paving the way for progress and urban development. The transition from dirt roads to paved surfaces was a testament to Fullerton's determination to keep pace with the changing times. The newly laid asphalt not only facilitated smoother journeys but also spurred economic growth, allowing for the expansion of commerce and industries. It was a turning point that transformed Fullerton's roads into efficient arteries, enabling faster and more convenient travel for its residents and visitors. But with paved roads came road maintenance. As we drive along asphalt roads, we may not always be aware of the wear and tear taking place beneath our wheels, yet with each passing vehicle, 2 tons of pressure is exerted on the asphalt surface. This continuous force, often overlooked, leaves a mark on the road. As Fullerton's population continued its steady expansion, accompanied by a parallel surge in the number of vehicles on its streets, a report by the city of Fullerton reveals compelling data. According to a 24-hour traffic report, daily traffic escalated from 2,100,000 cars in 1995 to 2,720,000 cars in 2019. That is an increase of more than 600,000 additional cars navigating the roads, which is an average of more than 2,400,000,000 pounds of additional force being applied every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to look at is, the majority of city streets were built back when the city developed back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. The volume of traffic was a lot less than it is now. The weight of some of the vehicles are a lot heavier now with the trucks driving around. You got increased trash service, just increased traffic in general is not something that is beneficial to a road, especially when it was built many, many years ago to different standards, and those standards were fine back then, but not necessarily what we would do now. So you got a kind of a little bit of a perfect storm going on right there.
But Fullerton, like all cities in Orange County, is facing the same traffic growth. So why is it that Fullerton was rated as having the worst roads in Orange County? And to answer that question, we have to look at how roads are maintained. Road maintenance itself can be viewed as a very straightforward process. When cracks emerge on roads, they can be promptly addressed through the application of a slurry seal. This approach effectively reduces the need for more extensive and expensive reconstruction in the future.
talk about how much does it cost to slurry seal a mile of road versus fully reconstruct a mile of road?
It is significantly different. Let me see. I think I have got a few slides here. Okay. It might be covered under the picture here, but every year I update our cost to reconstruct and rehabilitate our streets. So every year I update these budgetary costs based on our bids that we get from contractors every year. So as you can see, there's a huge difference between slurry seal and full reconstruction.
So slurry seal, the cost per mile is $126,000 for a local road, whereas for full reconstruction for a local road, it's $1.8 million a mile.
If cracks are not sealed in a timely manner, a troublesome scenario unfolds. When a crack remains unaddressed, it creates an opening for water to infiltrate the underlying dirt layer. This infiltration process weakens the integrity of the dirt layer, eventually causing the collapse of the asphalt layers situated above it. The consequences of this deterioration is the formation of potholes. Potholes which further speeds up the problem. Potholes acting as entry points for additional water perpetuates a vicious cycle of deterioration, leading to more significant damage over time. Therefore, what could have been resolved through crack sealing turns into a costly and extensive reconstruction endeavor.
Because there was, over time, a lot of deferred maintenance, the road conditions got deteriorated to a point where you had to now do a full layer repair. Not to mention that you have the water and the sewage infrastructure that's also old. It's at least 50 years old now, and it has come to its life expectancy. And so that obviously costs more than just maintaining.
So this begs the question of why did the city of Fullerton not do the proper maintenance for their roads when needed? I pay my taxes, so why aren't they doing their jobs?
The problem is not just our roads. The road issue is a symptom. It's a symptom of a greater financial and revenue problem in the city. And so that's where the core issue is. So anybody coming and saying, hey, we need to fix our roads, and we'll fix our roads, we'll put money in there. Yeah, but you're going to take it from somewhere else. And that somewhere else could be public safety, could be community services, could be fire services, could be library services. The issue is that we have gotten to a point where our revenue is not enough to meet the demands of all departments in the city, not just roads. So our infrastructure overall has a very large deficit right now. We're looking at close to $200 million, of which a very large portion of that is just the roads alone. So no matter what you put every year in roads, it's just a drop in the bucket. And so the issue has been a lack of attention to revenues over the years, and then just trying to overcome that and balance budgets by cuts.
The surge in population during the early 1990s brought about a significant increase in the demands of various essential services within the city of Fullerton. This included a higher volume of emergency calls, park maintenance, and of course, road repair. Unfortunately, these growing needs resulted in a substantial deficit in the city's budget in 1993, amounting to a staggering negative $4.2 million. As a result, the city administration realized the pressing need to generate additional revenue or find ways to curtail expenses. One approach to saving money entails reducing salaries or cutting positions. However, as expressed by the late former Fullerton mayor Buck Catlin in 1993, this path may compromise essential services, stating, "We've been cutting back for the last 2 years. Those things that the public has come to expect as givens will not be given." With limited options, the council majority concluded that implementing the tax was necessary to overcome the deficit. Their decision involved imposing a 3% tax, which was later lowered to a 2% tax on utilities. The tax was estimated to cost the average family $3 to $4.40 a month and raise about $1.4 million in the years 1993 to 94. In July of that year, the utility tax was passed by a 3-2 vote. Despite the city's persistence to tackle the budget deficit by introducing a tax, they encountered a setback. A recall was initiated for 3 out of the 5 council members. This recall, fueled by dissatisfied citizens who opposed the tax, was orchestrated through a petition reflecting the discontent within the community. Notable figures leading the opposition to the tax included Thomas J. O'Neill, who served as the Chamber of Commerce representative, as well as Thomas S. Babcock, co-chair of the recall committee. Additionally, Bruce Whitaker, who is currently the mayor pro tem as of 2023, held the position of recall committee treasurer at the time, and they all played a significant role in advocating for the recall. Following the recall, there was a notable shift in the priorities and public sentiment surrounding city council elections in Fullerton. Rather than focusing on restoring or expanding city services, the prevailing trend became centered around cutting city services as a means to address the ongoing deficit. As a consequence, city employees faced the impact of those cost-cutting measures, leading to dissatisfaction among the workforce. Furthermore, the lack of competitive compensation compared to other cities resulted in the loss of talented employees to neighboring municipalities. Cracks on the streets were left unaddressed. The growing discontent prompted action, leading to a report from city staff presented to the city council on August 17, 1999, highlighting the significant infrastructure deficit. The total cost to remedy these deficiencies was estimated to be around $150 million. In response to this pressing issue, the 1999 City Council decided to establish the Infrastructure Advisory Committee on September 21st. And in the year 2001, during the April 17 council meeting, the report was finished and was given to the council. According to the city minutes, Bruce Whitaker spoke to the council during public comments, and according to the minutes, quote, Bruce Whitaker expressed the opinion that it is time to examine and rearrange the existing city budget. He stated that the basic city responsibility of street repair and maintenance has been severely mishandled, and expressed doubts about the committee, and questioned whether city staff and council only recently discovered that street maintenance was a priority that requires regular outlays in annual budgets. Mayor Jones responded that only in the past 2 years has there been a significant growth in revenue to provide additional funds to address the infrastructure deficiency. Councilmember Flory stated that Mr. Whitaker needs to be more specific if he is going to criticize the council for misappropriation. She added that the council has been playing catch-up for 10 years because the utility tax, which would have generated approximately $3 million per year and cost each household less than $5 per month, was defeated through the recall election. And Mr. Whitaker's assessment is unfair and ill-founded, since the city council is focusing on and having to deal with a situation that was started by his group years ago. Mr. Whitaker disagreed with her points, noting that there are revenue sources other than property tax. The group he is associated with, as well as the citizens, holds the council accountable for the infrastructure crisis and has always supported a much higher level of expenditures on basic needs such as streets. One of the recommendations made by the Infrastructure Advisory Committee was to implement a tax to generate additional revenue for infrastructure improvements and maintenance. However, due to the negative perception surrounding taxation in Fullerton, it took several years for an additional tax proposal to be put forward to the council. The opportunity to present a new tax finally arose after the Infrastructure and Natural Resources Advisory Committee recommended on March 3, 2020, that the city approves a sales tax ballot measure following a 6-month study of Fullerton's infrastructure needs that found it to have been severely underfunded for decades. INRAC's report stated that nearly $25 million a year was needed for necessary infrastructure improvements. Measure S was passed 4-1 with only one council member voting no, and this was now council member Bruce Whitaker. The measure was then to be put on the ballot in the November 2020 election. As the final votes were counted, Measure S failed, leaving the infrastructure in the city of Fullerton the same spot we were in since the 90s.
So back in 2020, the council put on the ballot Measure S as a sales tax measure for the city. Many cities throughout California are also struggling financially, especially the medium-sized cities that have full services like ours. A lot of them have put forward also sales tax measures. In Fullerton, it did not pass. Meanwhile, everywhere else it did.
It is worth noting that some individuals have expressed their willingness to support Measure S if the proposed tax had been specifically designed for road improvements. However, the decision to present Measure S as a general tax encompassing all city needs rather than solely focusing on roads was influenced by several factors. One significant factor is the voting requirement under California law. A special tax designated exclusively for a specific purpose like road maintenance necessitates a 2/3 majority vote from the citizens for approval, and the fear from the 1994 recall shows that it was best to leave it as a simple majority.
The group that was tasked with getting that advice or giving that advice to council was a group called NRAC, it's the Infrastructure and Natural Resources Committee. And NRAC had said what we'll support as a committee is a sales tax that's specific for infrastructure and has a sunset clause. And the council at the time decided that requires a specific sales tax requires a higher threshold of voters. General sales tax just requires 50 plus 1. So they said, well, let's do the general tax. And that failed miserably because citizens of Fullerton say, well, why should I pay more, give you more money if I don't trust you with that money? If you're not a good financial steward, we're not going to do that. And overwhelmingly, the citizens of Fullerton said no. I think if you can prove to the folks of this city that you are mindful of their tax dollars, that you are promises made, promises kept, I think there's a possibility of doing that. Now, the budget cut was important, so it showed the citizens of Fullerton and the voters that we are able to make fiscal cuts in order to prove to you that we are going to be mindful of your money, that we are just not going to be spending it and giving it away at the door, so to speak. So I think that's been proven. I've looked under every rock. I've looked under every couch cushion in the city. The money that we have and the increases that we have are great, but they're very finite in our resource.
In contrast, by proposing Measure S as a general tax applicable to the city as a whole and addressing multiple city needs, including infrastructure improvements, the city aimed to secure passage through a simple majority vote. This approach would have allowed for greater flexibility in distributing the generated funds across various essential services and priorities, not limited solely to roads.
Look, nobody likes taxes. I don't like taxes, and we pay it, but sometimes it is necessary. And in this case, it was absolutely necessary. And now, in hindsight, 3 years after its failure now, we are looking at more cuts in services. Our roads haven't been repaired, as a lot of people during those campaigns promised it can be done without a sales tax. And we've had more, even major cuts in public safety, major cuts in a lot of services. Our city, look at our parks, everything looks shabby. This year, thanks to some ARPA funds, we managed to bring up some of the levels of services, hiring additional people. But in general, we're at an all-time low in our employee levels. So no matter what we want to do, we don't have the staffing enough to be able to accomplish it. And so we're struggling across the board financially on every department, our library, our museum, which ended up being cut completely. And all the other departments, our planning, our financial and economic development, all of those are lacking staff. So it wasn't just about the roads, it was about everything else as well.
This last-ditch effort aimed to avoid a dire financial situation and ensure the continued provision of essential services.
We have our water engineering division, which is currently underfunded. We have over 100 water main breaks a year, which is extraordinarily high for a city this size, and they're very expensive. So we're aggressively replacing our water mains, but we also have reservoirs, pump stations, and other facilities that need to be rehabbed and upgraded as well. So we currently don't have the funding to do that as we should be doing. So that's one subset of engineering. David runs our CIP division, which they not only look at our roads, but they also look at our facilities, our parks, other infrastructure, storm drain, our utilities, storm drains, some of our sewers. A lot of that. I think our sewers is probably our best. I think our sewers are in good shape.
We have dedicated funding for that.
But storm drains, our parks, our facilities, I think our facilities are in great need of additional funding. We have 30 plus facilities. That's not including, I think, our parks, restrooms.
50 odd parks.
Yeah, there's 52 parks. I think we have 30 plus facilities that are all in dire need of attention, and it's really because we need funding. And then we have traffic engineering as well. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, the saying, money makes the world go round. No, the cities and governments, local governments, they provide services. We're not for profit. So, we take off money and we provide the services to the people, but we can only provide the service with the budgets that we have. And I think in general, we do a very good job of maintaining our systems. Everyone, if you're not complaining, that means we're doing a good job. So we're doing well on that. It's obviously when you see something that you don't like is when we get the complaints, and we're fully aware of that. I'm a longtime resident of Fullerton, so I live it, breathe it every day. On the weekends, I drive the same streets, so I don't go home and just ignore it and go, that's somebody else's problem. As a resident, it's my problem too, and my issue. So I think everyone's going to say they need more money. We're no different, but I do think we do a good job with what we're provided.
But currently, we are staying afloat because of the American Rescue Plan Act funds from the federal government.
Well, ARPA funds were very, very finite. So every city got an allocation based usually on population, or mostly on population anyhow. So our ARPA funds are already in use. They're already being utilized. So how much longer will they be utilized? We tapered it out for 3 years. After 3, we're back on, our revenues exclusively.
Let's not make any mistakes. When you see my sign and you see my name, I am running for the streets 100%. I will stay focused on the streets.
I would say for one, definitely, I know others have said it, is our infrastructure.
Our residents are and recognize that well-earned D that we received in our roads.
Chapman Park area, and that is really in bad shape. I would do everything I can to earmark monies for them to get their roads fixed, because it's been like that for 20, 30 years.
City council members elected to represent the interests of the community have consistently made promises to address the issues of road repairs. It is important to note that these promises are not necessarily false or insincere. Council members genuinely want to improve the condition of the roads. However, what we have observed is a lack of understanding for the magnitude and urgency the road repair needs. Road repair is a multifaceted challenge that requires a comprehensive approach. It involves not only patching potholes or resurfacing streets, but also addressing underlying infrastructure issues such as drainage issues, utility lines, and traffic flow management. The intensity of road repair goes beyond superficial fixes and demands a deeper understanding of the underlying problem. In the realm of politics, it is not uncommon for candidates to use road repair as a campaign promise to attract voters. While this practice is a part of the democratic process, it is crucial for voters to consider the qualifications and understanding the candidates have when it comes to road repair.
It is true that business people are used to dealing with money. However, they're used to also thinking about profit and trying to cut costs. I've been a public university employee since 1997 when I graduated undergrad, and dealing with projects and budgets from that perspective, and then building a budget based on what it is that we need. And so I do think it's a different perspective, because I don't look at the city budget and say, okay, we have a set amount of money and we're just going to divvy up based on that set amount of money or on maximizing revenue in some way and cutting costs. I look at it and say, what does the city need? What does each department need? And let's build from the ground up and then see where we are, and also look at revenue and see if we can match that and make that work. And in my conversations with the city manager while they were putting the budget together, it turned out he had a similar perspective on that, where he was getting input from each department as to what it is they need for the upcoming year. And I do think that's a better way to look at it. It also helped when we were in discussions in open session that I was able to say things like, this is something that is necessary. We're increasing revenues. We need to increase our sales tax revenue. We need to increase the inputs coming into the city so that we can meet the needs instead of having the opposite perspective.
Yes, the roads, the streets have been my top priority since my first term as mayor in 2013 and again in 2017. And I helped to drive efforts to commit more monies, at least in the short term, toward street replacement and street repair. So when you do occupy that seat and or you have the mayorship, you have an ability to affect the agenda of the council, and I've done that. However, the real follow-through part of this, which is to make sure that we're getting really good, lasting work done on the streets, that hasn't really been followed through upon. The majority of the council would rather go searching for new revenues, and then demonstrably those revenues don't go for pavement repairs. I always say it's payroll, perks, and pensions over pavement. And that's been really the MO of the current majority, the recent majorities on the council. I am the one person bringing up the alternative solutions, and that's why it's important to have someone in there who understands what it's going to take to turn this around without new taxes.
Mr. Takur, same question about the roads.
Sure, and maybe it is a little bit more contentious, but apparently the city council cares too much about pensions. But if one were to visit the website, Transparent California, one would see that Mr. Whitaker has been drawing salaries from the Orange County Water District, from the Sanitation District, and if you look on the city council website, Mr. Whitaker has the highest compensation rate of any other council member. On day one, by taking a lower salary than Mr. Whitaker, I would be putting more money back into our general fund. But the roads are a problem, and I think that somebody that's had 10 years to address this issue and still believes that it's an issue that needs to be addressed, but won't talk about ways to increase revenue is maybe not totally serious about the problem.
Current city council members have a firm commitment to addressing the pressing issue of road repair in Fullerton. During council meetings, discussions arose concerning the allocation of the federal funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. In a demonstration of their dedication, council majority voted in favor of using the American Rescue Plan Act funds for road reconstruction. However, it is essential to consider the broader implications of their actions.
Motion passes.
What was decided by council members Fred Jung, Bruce Whitaker, and Nick Dunlap was to cut city jobs and leave over 100 jobs vacant. Their goal was to use the ARPA funds for road repair, which in theory is noble. The only problem was that this would lead to a workload deficit the city was already struggling with.
We would seek those wishing to speak to this item to line up on the wall on the north side.
Good evening. Dan Lancaster, President of Fullerton Firefighter Association, Mayor, council members, city manager, thank you for the presentation tonight. I'm not here to talk about numbers. I think the numbers are speaking for themselves tonight. Tonight, my concern is the mental and physical well-being of the men and women out there doing our job. I'm going to say it again, the mental and physical well-being of your firefighters has got to be a concern and a top priority moving forward with these decisions. As we discussed with our fire chief and the questions that were asked, for each firefighter vacancy, it creates 240 hours of man hours in addition to the 56-hour work week we're currently working. So times that by 10, that's 2,400 hours of additional manpower that needs to be worked by less than 50 firefighters that are able to actually put those hours in. That has to be a consideration. We currently have 5 veteran firefighters out on long-term injuries due to the wear and tear on the body. These are shoulders, knee replacements, hip replacements. The wear and tear is already starting to set in. Our young workforce can't keep up.
Hello, my name is Bernard, and I am a Fullerton resident. I am opposed vehemently to the cuts. The city's services are already compromised. I live in South Fullerton, and it'll be impacted the most. This council majority made big promises to fix our roads, improve public safety, and fix our parks without a sales tax. And yet, all I'm seeing is just cuts to all these services. ARPA funds are temporary and certainly cannot be used for any of the damage that you already did. Imagine if we didn't even have this safety net. So far, you presented no solutions, only cuts in 9 months. In 9 months. salary, and on. What are you doing?
During the pandemic, the city laid off 156 non-regular part-time employees and 7 full-time employees. Additionally, over the past year, the city has seen major losses in senior management positions. Former city manager Ken Domer and Parks and Recreation Director Hugo were both laid off, and Director of Community and Economic Development Matt Folks and Deputy City Manager Antonia Castro Graham both left to take jobs in other agencies.
Employees, they're tired of trying to maintain adequate services with less and less. The workload, it doesn't subside, and it's being felt every day, from the everyday field worker or office worker all the way up with management. Management has a tough job also, because they're trying to maintain things with not enough staff to go around. And I guess if I was sitting up on one of your chairs, the 2 questions I'd be asking is, number one, why are so many employees leaving for other agencies? And I guess the second question would be, why aren't we attracting any employees from other agencies to come want to work for the city of Fullerton? We renovate parks and they all look nice, but if you don't have the staffing level to keep them up, is it really, at what point do they start to deteriorate? Everybody wants to have a nice park. I don't care what part of town you're in. Some parks are because of staffing levels, they're being taken care of once a month.
During recent city council meetings and discussions, it has been acknowledged that salary cuts are already being implemented as a means to address budgetary challenges. As if the city didn't have enough problems, the salary cuts have led to wages in certain departments such as Fullerton Fire Department and the Public Works Department becoming uncompetitive. In the case of the Fullerton Fire Department, it has been noted that the current wage structure is not competitive enough to retain experienced firefighters. Many firefighters, after receiving training and gaining valuable experience, choose to leave Fullerton for other cities that offer better compensation. This situation highlights the need to reassess and adjust salary levels within the department to ensure the retention of skilled firefighters and maintain effective emergency response services. Similar concerns have been raised regarding the Public Works Department. Employees within the department face the same issue of seeking better compensation elsewhere due to the existing salary structure in Fullerton not being competitive. The loss of experienced personnel affects the city's ability to maintain and improve its infrastructure, including roads.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Luis Carrillo. I'm with the water department. I'm here to speak on behalf of Public Works and implore you guys to consider scenario number 4. I know it's easy to look at the budget in terms of numbers, but just to give you guys a little bit of perspective, as an individual, sometimes in the city of Fullerton, in the water department, we have main breaks in the middle of the night. First of all, the city of Fullerton is very underfunded as far as our infrastructure goes. We have more than 110 main breaks per year. Anaheim has less than 20 in a year. A lot of those main breaks come in the middle of the night, so there are times when we are out there working over 24 hours in a row, no sleep, 26 hours operating machinery. We're tired, we're jackhammering, we're out there, but we do it because it's part of our responsibility to the community to make sure they have safe, potable water for kids to shower in the morning, to drink. We don't want to keep them out of water, so we work really hard. And at the end of the day, it's kind of sad that we work those long shifts, but we can't even afford to live in the city of Fullerton. That's how underfunded we are. So I just hope you guys, in good faith, look at the budget, consider scenario 4, and realize that, hey, if anything, we're actually underfunded. So just keep that in mind, please.
My name is Jameson Fillion. I work for the city of Fullerton as well. Lived here all my life. I've worked for the city about 5 years in the water department. I know every day it seems like we're losing more and more employees, and we're not filling those positions, and everybody just has to take on the workload, and it's getting to be too much. And now you want to take more, and it hurts. As a resident, as someone who loves this city, it hurts. And I don't really have a lot other to say than that, but please consider an option other than taking more from us.
Fullerton is not the sole city grappling with the challenge of deteriorating roads and strained budgets in the face of population growth. It's just the only city that has passed the problem continuously down the chain of city councils, waiting for the next to fix it.
That you only pretend to listen.
Take the city of La Habra. In 2008, they recognized the necessity of changing the general fund's revenue and proposed Measure T, raising the city's sales tax by half of 1 cent. As a result, the city of La Habra has experienced a noteworthy improvement in their pavement condition index, rising from 69.7 in 2009 to an impressive 82.5 in 2019. This figure is monumental, as not only did the Pisagaya of La Habra rise above the state average, but it rose 12.7 points in a decade, while Fullerton is predicted to decrease theirs by 4 points in 7 years. It is evident that the challenges associated with road maintenance and limited budgets extend beyond Fullerton, impacting cities like La Habra as well. However, proactive measures and initiatives such as passing revenue-increasing measures have enabled La Habra to make significant strides in improving their road infrastructure and outperforming the state in terms of pavement condition. Indeed, securing grants is another avenue through which cities can obtain additional funds to support various projects and initiatives. However, the process of acquiring grants can present its own challenges. Think of grant writing as a scholarship, except instead of a struggling college student, it's a city grappling with financial constraints. It's essentially a sum of money allocated to the city for a specific purpose. This allocation is closely monitored through continuous audits, ensuring that the funds are solely used for the designated intent. To tackle the process of grant writing, two essential factors come into play. First, there's the need for a dedicated team to identify suitable grants, so we understand exactly what we're aiming for. Second, there's the requirement for someone skilled in grant writing, a task that's far from simple. Even individuals with bachelor's degrees in public administration, a major that is meant specifically for city work, find grant writing to be a challenge. And unfortunately, due to Fullerton's financial strain, experienced staff members with this expertise have left for opportunities in other cities, leaving us with a gap. Now imagine if the city had a capable individual who could not only unearth relevant grants, but also invest the time and effort to apply for them. This person would engage in conversation with the grant providers, understanding their criteria, and then meticulously putting together the grant application. As the application is submitted, the moment of reckoning arrives. They stand before a serious panel of officials articulating how the deteriorating roads are the key to a community's wide transformation. And as you can already tell, the stakes are extremely high. Because remember, you're not alone in this endeavor. Numerous cities are competing for the same pool of resources. It's as if you're placing your application on one side of the scale, hoping it outweighs the stack of competing proposals. However, as you can already tell, the outcome isn't always favorable. The rejection email arrives, leaving us disheartened. The journey to secure grants is paved with rejection, much like the very roads we're striving to attend. Yet, amidst the challenges, there's a glint of purpose. It's a reminder that substantial change demands dedication. And to get personal, we've done this before. Hi, my name is Adrian. I'm the co-director of this documentary, and this documentary was to show and to further explain why the roads are at the state they are right now. But it was also to help explain how city government works, which not many people know about. You know, we elect people to the city council, and then the city council then has control over the city employees. But there's only so much that the city employees can do with the limited budgets that they have. And while doing research, I found out that it's not just a Fullerton thing, more so just like a nationwide thing. With populations increasing, year after year, you can't have the same level of service that you had 10 to 20 years ago and not expect the need to increase revenue. And to go back to grant writing, we recently did acquire a grant, and this grant was meant for the Parks and Recreation Department. This grant was to create a fully functioning trail from the Union Pacific Park, which was meant to be revitalized, to Independence Park. It was going to be connecting the two parks together. And this was going to be almost entirely paid for by the grant money. There's money in the city budget that is meant specifically for creating new parks. So there's money for this grant. But council majority said that they didn't want that. And the reason for that was 3 out of the 5 council members received huge campaign contributions from a property developer that owns 30% of the property by the trail. And that property developer is strongly against implementing a trail, even if the money was given to us, which it was. Ikla Nunzi, community leader here for the city of Fullerton, organized the community walk, and the people who walked the where the proposed trail would be all spoke highly in favor of option one. So going against option one would be going against the public opinion, not only public opinion, but also financial responsibility. This is grant money that the city has received, and going against any other option besides option one would be giving away grant money that the city has received. And council majority has voted with the American Rescue Plan Act to allocate funds for the roads. So I think you all know how expensive road maintenance is, and we really don't have the staff to maintain roads, so adding an additional road is not really financially responsible. So not only would any other option besides option one would be irresponsible today, but it would be tomorrow. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion for option one with the idea to incorporate this in a comprehensive plan and bring all of them back together, but to move forward this.
Very well, sir. Is there a second to this?
I will second the motion.
Very well. There isn't a substitute motion. We will to the vote.
Councilmember Charles?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunlap?
No.
Councilmember Zara?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker?
No.
And Mayor Jung?
No.
Fails 2-3.
I would make the motion for option three and taking.
Let me just clarify, option three is returning the funds to the state?
Or reapproaching the agency to fund another project in the city.
Could we ask the staff, they've already approached the agency once, is that option open to reapproach the agency?
Excuse me, order please. The option, excuse me, order please. Order please, thank you. Option number three is,
why do you guys
excuse me,
time making surveys and
excuse me,
excuse
me,
we get the service.
order please, order please,
You know what? I don't need
order
you guys.
please,
You guys are full of
order
lies.
please.
You guys don't care
You
about
had an
the
opportunity to make public comment. We are not,
We didn't care.
Mr. City Attorney, we are not here doing a back and forth, please.
Yes, because it's north. You guys don't see people that live on the south don't have money. You guys are such a full of crap. My dad is been living here, and they never went to the park because you guys is fine. You guys stay forever. You guys don't care about the families.
So again, the option number three with the addition of opening Union Pacific Park without haste, that is the motion I make.
May I ask a clarification, Mr. Mayor?
Certainly.
Option three does include two very different things. One is to return the money to the state. One is to ask the state to reconsider their previous rejection. Can we clarify which one we're asking for? Reapproaching the agency?
It says
Okay.
or. It says or. They can do both. Walk and chew gum at the same time. All right. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Very well. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
I would like to discuss that option, please.
No. Take the vote, please.
I would also like to discuss this option, please.
I believe the city attorney should
Because
weigh
we
in
have
on whether
not
or not we
discussed
can
this
discuss
particular
this
option.
particular option.
Okay.
Well, again, it's up to the chair. If he cuts off discussion, you can make a motion to reopen discussion. The majority allows you to rehab discussion.
Would you like to do that?
Yeah, would that majority vote need to be a 4-1 vote, or would it be a 3-2?
3-2.
3-2. Okay, well, I would like to make a motion to discuss this because I'm unclear as to our previous discussions of the with the state agency and how open they may be to putting funding into Union Pacific Park or not.
Is there a second to that?
I would second that.
Very well.
Councilmember Charles?
Aye.
Wait, can you please read that back?
This is a
number
motion
three, right?
to open discussion on the
to open
original
discussion.
motion. Yes.
Original motion
On
was failed.
the mayor's motion.
On the mayor's motion, sorry.
At this point in time, what we're doing is the motion is to override the mayor's decision to cut off further discussion. So the motion is to have further discussion.
Okay. No.
Councilmember Zara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker?
No.
And Mayor Jung?
No. Again, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Charles?
No.
Councilmember Dunlap?
Aye.
Councilmember Zara?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker?
Aye.
And Mayor Jung?
Aye.
That passes 3-2.
Final item for this evening is compensation.
And I will admit for the record, I was a previous City of Fullerton employee. And to be completely transparent, this is how much money I was making at the City of Fullerton for the year 2021. The reason I left to go to another city was the same reason as to why anyone else from the City of Fullerton leaves. The pay wasn't enough to, keep the lights on, keep a roof over my head, and also, have food on the table. So now I'm here trying to explain to everybody what exactly is going on. The government is here for you, the people, and we put people in charge, and that is our power. But if those people who we put in charge are making decisions for the individual, and that individual bought their campaigns, then the government's not going to work for the people. Instead, it's going to work for that individual. So we need to not think how to better our lives for today, but to better our lives for tomorrow and for the future. The decision to use the American Rescue Plan Act funds was to better our roads for today, but if they're not used to restock our city employees, then that decision's gonna hurt us in the future. But the consequences of that decision is for tomorrow and for the future. And in the future, that same council that made that decision, they're not gonna be there. So the point of all of this is that we as a collective need to make informed decisions, know what's going on in our city government. If there is a park that needs maintenance, go and talk to the Parks and Recreation Department about it. Don't just complain and then try to vote for someone promising that they'll fix it even though they don't even know how to fix it in the first place. Go and find out what the root problem is and then advocate for fixing that. If there's money that needs to be funded as a community, let's find that. Let's pressure our city council to find monies for those specific purposes that we want. We put people in power, and we have the power to take that power away. Thank you for watching.